My name's Dan Hay, and I'm the creative director on Far Cry 5. If we're talking about Far Cry 5 and you know nothing about the franchise, you know nothing about the game, basically we're taking you to Hope County, Montana, which is this fictional place that we've built, but it's born from our experiences of looking into Montana and thinking about what we wanted to take with Far Cry next. We bring you to America, we bring you to Hope County, and it's been overrun by this fanatic cult, and they believe that the end of the world is coming, led by the Father, who believes that because of this doomsday prophecy that he's got, that he's going to basically protect you and take you whether you want to be taken or not. That's the situation you're in, and so far people are playing it and loving it. If we think back to when we first started to think about, Montana or Hope County, we were thinking about going to America as far back as like 2012 when we finished Far Cry 3. And we had a lot of conversations about how to do it, and at the time, it didn't really gel, it didn't really mesh. And then about 3 years ago, we said, okay, we want to go back to the States. Where do we go? And I think what's interesting about our brand is pretty flexible, and we really are open to different ideas. And we were kind of kicking around different locations and whatnot. And somebody said, Montana. We were like, Montana? Why Montana? Nobody knows anything about Montana. We're like, wait a minute, that's a good thing. And then we started to hear that it was a frontier. We started to understand that there's people there that are really self-reliant and really want to be left alone. And then the more you start to delve into it and how beautiful and lush it is, and how even though it's familiar, it's also exotic, it really started to make sense. So we got on a plane, we went there, and we fell in love with it within like 48 hours. I think you have to be aware of yourself, right? We know that we're good at creating these characters. We know that we're good at taking you and sending you to these exotic locations. But we also know there's things that, we want to change and grow with. And I think, the first time Dutch tells you, you're going to climb that tower, but don't worry, there's no more towers in the game. It's just the fact that we have to be self-aware. I think that people are really going to discover the game's really funny, despite the fact that we're talking about, there's moments that are dark, there's moments that are emotional, we're putting you up against characters like the Father and the cult. There's great moments that are really, really funny, and we do a good job of bringing those two tones together and making it all work. The amount of work to go into to make the Father, I think it's honestly more than certainly I've ever done before. Thinking about, you think about previous Far Cries with Boss, great character, great acting, very physical. And then you think about what we did with Peg and Min, someone who was like that friend that we all have that if you stay friends with them, you're going to end up in jail, right? But with this guy, we wanted him to be really intellectual, but also philosophical, but also somebody that would have a gravity that would pull you in, and somebody that was a true believer, a zealot. And that's what the Father is. He's a zealot. He absolutely does not believe that he's the bad guy. He believes that he's going to save you, that he's going to take you. He understands you're going to look at him and say, you're crazy. He understands that and says, I'm not, and I'm going to save you, whether you want to be saved or not. I think, when you build a game that's this complex and this organic, you want to make sure that the player can play it the way that they want. So yes, there have to be moments that are bombastic, and yes, there have to be moments that can be earnest, but you want it to all make sense. So when you build the world, you try and make it so it has familiar elements to it. We all know how big a door frame should be. We all know how big a window should be, what music should play in the car when you get in it. And if it has that haunting familiarity at the same time as giving you something new, it's a little bit easier to digest. When you think about the Guns for Hire, the Fangs for Hire, co-op, the Friends for Hire, we wanted to make it so that players had a lot of opportunity to play different ways. So if you think about Boomer, you take Boomer, you go out into the world of Boomer, and Boomer's like a drone, an organic drone. And you can go around and you can tag people and then basically go into the actual Boomer. Cheeseburger is just an organic tank. You grab Cheeseburger, you go in. Stealth is probably not the option you're taking, right? If you've got Cheeseburger and Herc, and he's got an RPG, blowing shit up is the option you're taking. So it's really fun to be able to play the game and see that people are going in, they're grabbing Herc, or they're grabbing Cheeseburger, or Jess, or they're grabbing Boomer, or Nick, and they're rotating. And you put this roster together of these great characters who have completely different, abilities. And what you find yourself is you get to an outpost and you think, okay, what do I want to do? Well, this outpost is built this way. Maybe there's a mission that's happening just after it. This is the best character for this. It's the right key for the right lock. I think that when we built the game, we knew what we wanted to make, right? We wanted to not necessarily make a specific commentary about the States, but about the world. And that it feels as if, through the Father, you can get this feeling like the end of the world, if it ever came, if there was a moment where we were right on the edge, would we know it? Would we have the maturity to pull back? And what's been eerie is working on this game 3 years ago when we pitched it, it was like, I don't believe this would ever happen. And then 2 years ago, it was like, okay, I'll give you that maybe it could happen. And then like last year, it was like, okay, it could absolutely happen. And it's been weird. It's been eerie to have that happen. But I think, we didn't have a crystal ball. We didn't know that the world was going to change as much as it did. But it's really interesting to see people react to it and then get their hands on the game and know that it's a piece of entertainment. It's something that we built, it's something that we stayed true to, and they're having an absolute blast. I don't know that it was designed after me. Dutch is one of those things where I think our art director just happened to see a picture of me and decide to make him look like me. But yes, it's a little bit weird to have somebody who looks that much like you in a game, but he's a cool character, right? It's great to have somebody, we all need that person who, when you're in trouble, you can basically have that person call you, give you a sense of, hey, listen, you're in trouble, this is what's happening. And they're that voice in your ear, that voice in the darkness that kind of helps you through those times. Dutch is absolutely that. But yeah, you're right. I'm going to go as Dutch for Halloween. There's no question about that. The IGE, the in-game editor, has been around in Far Cry for quite a while, and we know that players love the ability to be able to contribute to the game, to actually build stuff. And so we said, well, why don't we just make that so it's seamless, it's in the world, and you can walk up to it. So now if you go to a bar and you see that there's an arcade right there, you step up to it and you behave like you would. You go right in and you're able now this time to be able to use Watch Dogs assets, AC assets, Far Cry assets, and really contribute to the game. You feel like a dev.